Hello, I'm Ajahn Jyotipalo. Welcome to Sauntering into Silence. This is a special video, at least for me, and I'm titling it, What Are the Odds?
I think that's Mr. Bentonelli.
The opera singer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like they're performing.
Yeah, that's probably in Lenox, Massachusetts.
Okay.
When they would go with Miss Buckingham in the summertime
Right.
to her summer home.
So let me show you this. At the very end here, my grandmother, Mumu Ida, was always very opposed to me living in this ashram. And I was showing her a picture of the Kripalu Center where I was living studying yoga. And in the book it had a picture of this exact same shot right here, but the shot had the Kripalu Center is right there. And then, or this shot here was taken right up by the road. And I was standing right where the photographer, I think that this shot here was taken. And then this is a picture of my grandmother when she was 18 years old, I think standing right where the Kripalu building is. So obviously before it was built. And this was Miss Buckingham's summer home in Lenox, Massachusetts. So when I showed Mumu these pictures, she had been very opposed to me living in this ashram, and she saw that, she started shaking. She said, oh, maybe he's supposed to be there. Maybe you're supposed to be there. And then she got really interested in what I was doing, so I finally sent her a book of Ajahn Sumedho's. And she wrote back, she said, this is the greatest book I've ever read. Do you have anything else like that? And so I sent her about a dozen books. And then when she died, you sent me all of her books back, and they were all highlighted, and then she turned over the book pages to mark them and stuff. So that was really a happy moment. So this video was going to be titled, What Are the Odds? So I just wanted to introduce Katie McKenna with Clear Mountain Monastery in Seattle. We both found out that we were both born in Crawfordsville, Indiana. What are the odds of that?
And it's a very small town, as you can probably guess.
Exactly. So Katie, do you want to tell the story of how we both discovered that we are from Crawfordsville?
Yeah, so I was listening to you on Clear Mountain YouTube channel recently. Right. Ajahn Nisabo and Ajahn Kovilo were interviewing you. And I don't remember which one, but they introduced you and said you were from Indiana. And I was like, I just don't meet very many people from Indiana.
No, we don't.
And so I Googled you, and I was like, he's from Crawfordsville, Indiana? That's where I was born. Right. And I was like, okay, this is getting really weird. And maybe 2 or 3 years ago, after I started getting into the Dhamma, my grandpa, he passed away almost a couple of years ago now, but he lived in Crawfordsville all his life. And he said, you know, we have a monk in the family. I think he maybe lives in California. Funny enough, like I just made the assumption that you, which I now know is you, was a Christian or Catholic monk. And right. I know, like, I knew next to Abhayagiri Monastery that there was Mount Tabor. I was like, it can't be. Right. But when I saw the video, I was like, maybe this is actually you, and maybe we're actually related. So I Googled you a little bit more, and I found your name before you became Ajahn Jyotipalo, and I asked my mom, I was like, does this name ring a bell? Yeah. And she was like, yeah, I think that's him. That's the family. So then I told Ajahn Nisabo about it one time when I was at Alms, and then he ended up connecting us because I wanted to make sure.
Right, yeah. Yeah. So it turns out Katie and I are cousins. What are the odds? What are the chances that two people born in Crawfordsville, Indiana, which is a cornfield, basically, there's a couple industries there, but it's basically cornfield, and we both ended up not only just as Buddhists, but we ended up in the Thai forest tradition. What are the odds?
I was really shocked for that day. I was telling my husband about it. He's a practitioner as well, and I was like, my jaw was just like, really? like not even like Tibetan,
Right.
not even like Burmese, like Thai forest.
The Ajahn Chah lineage. Yeah.
Yeah, Ajahn Chah.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. And so how we're related is my grandfather was named Bernard, and he had, what, 6 siblings, 6 or 7. One of his sisters was, we called her Aunt Zeke. And so Zeke, and that was your great-grandmother?
Great-grandma, yeah.
Yeah, great-grandmother. So you were on the board of directors at Clear Mountain. And do you want to talk a little bit about the monastery? It's sort of, people watch my channel, they maybe have heard a little bit. They've seen the interview I did with Ajahn Kovilo and Ajahn Nisipo on creativity.
Welcome to another Clear Mountain interview. We're here with Ajahn Jodhipalo, one of our older brother, friend, mentor, teacher, monks.
And that's interesting too. Katie had seen that, and she said, "I want to meet this Jodhipalo." She's a writer, an artist, and that was even before she knew we were cousins.
Yeah, and Clear Mountain Monastery is really amazing too. I've been around mostly since the beginning, so it's been 4 years now. I came, I think, just like 3 months after it started in a park, and I had actually, I'm 36 now, but I had been reading about the Dhamma for a long time. Like I got my first Dhamma book when I was in high school at a Borders bookstore, and it took me a long time though to find my place within Buddhism. Like I tried going to a Tibetan temple and a Zen temple, and it wasn't until I found Theravada that I really started to feel like I was at home. And then, a few years ago, I found Clear Mountain Monastery, and that's when my practice really started to take off. It was just really different meeting, monks, meeting people like Ajahn Nisipo and Ajahn Kovilo who had completely given their life to the spiritual path. So after meeting them, actually just a couple months later, I quit my corporate job, and then I went down to Abhayagiri and Alokavihara, which isn't around anymore. But I went there and did a bunch of retreat, ended up being off of work for a few months. And so I've just been really obsessed with going to monasteries ever since. So I'm like very grateful to Clear Mountain for that and for introducing me to other practitioners, because it's like this path is difficult. It's really important to have other people to help you along the way and to practice with. So Clear Mountain has been that for me and for a lot of people, and it's just grown and grown over the years. It's really incredible.
Right. So they have a website and a YouTube channel. So if people are interested in, and they're very active. Like Ajahn Sona is very active with the live streaming and doing retreats. I think they have something like almost every single day.
They've got so much, like
study programs and little teachings they do. And so if anybody's interested, look up Clear Mountain on YouTube and on the internet.
I think most people could use more space and more stillness in their day. Theravada Buddhism, forest Buddhism, forest tradition is not like an evangelical, really, tradition. First and foremost, in the earliest scriptures of the Pali Canon, the Buddha was just talking about individual practitioners practicing to kind of purify their own minds, to cleanse the mind of greed and envy and jealousy and hatred and anger and all the flavors of these emotions which are less than beautiful, and centering our lives towards this goal of transcendence to awakening.
What's so meaningful about this tradition and this teaching, it's one of the most ancient models in humanity. It's been continuing for about 2,500 years. And instead of becoming less and less relevant, it's in some ways as relevant as it's ever been. You take these ancient robes, this ancient form, and you place it into modern Seattle, and people understand there's an archetypal quality to it and a genuine hunger people have for what it represents, I think, and what has been largely lost today in terms of a direction towards transcendence and of purifying the heart towards a state of selflessness, of generosity, of giving, and of awakening, which I think we all at some level intuit that we're capable of.
And they're fundraising right now, trying to raise money to purchase a property, so right now they're staying at a very generous couple's house, and they have like a cabin in the backyard and stuff, which is, it's great that they got that support and they're close to the city, but it's not their long-term goal. So if anybody wants to support that, you can look them up.
Yeah, that'd be great. Right now we're meeting in a gym,
That's right. Yeah,
an elementary school gym, which is great. But it'll be wonderful to actually have the land.
I want to get your reaction on these things too. So I do have the introduction is the story of my grandmother realizing that we actually, my spiritual practice at the ashram was just right next door to where she had lived, and it was actually through that connection in Lenox is where she met her husband, my grandfather, which was her great-grandmother's brother. So Lenox, Massachusetts. And I think it's interesting too that in Chicago on Lakeshore Drive there's a very famous fountain called the Buckingham Fountain, and most people think that's related to the Buckingham Palace in England, but it's actually this woman named Kate Buckingham, and she dedicated this fountain to her brother, and she was extremely wealthy for her time, and just very generous to the arts. And so this house that where my grandmother worked was, I think it's called Saranac Cottage, which if you watch the movie Mastro, but with Leonard Bernstein, we watch it here just because everybody here seems to be musicians, but the house where Leonard Bernstein lived was Saranac Cottage, where my grandmother worked. So it was so funny watching that movie. It's like, I've seen photos of this before. My grandmother in them. So very strange world we live in.
It really is.
How do we want to end this?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it just makes me like wonder about karma and rebirth and like,
Right.
yeah. I just always wondered, why am I from Crawfordsville, Indiana, of all places? And then how did I get into this, how did I get into Buddhism, which is from Asia,
Right. Right before I ordained, before I went to Abhayagiri just to start the training for myself, I was visiting my parents, and my dad just spontaneously decided to take my brother, sister, and I to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and which is pretty close to where we grew up. The greatest spectacle in sporting history, and 1 million people show up in 1 square mile for a day. And I'd only been to the race one other time before, but we went, and I had just finished my year being on staff at the Insight Meditation Society, which is the initials are IMS. And so I never thought about it, but then when we were at the track, as we were leaving, I noticed somebody had a wagon and it said IMS, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And so I just had this silly premonition that someone, in my previous life, someone told me, be born near IMS. And I got the message wrong. So I got born in Indiana instead of Massachusetts. So you never know.
I joke about that with my husband because he's originally from India.
Oh.
And so we were like, maybe we were trying to meet, and then we got our wires crossed.
You got an N and an A mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of when people say karma, really the word karma just means action. So it's like, and so when people say, I don't believe in karma, well, karma just means action. And it's vipaka karma, so it's the results of karma that is what most people say when they say karma. I don't believe in karma. It's like, well, it's the results of actions. So I always tell people, so it's like, well, when you go to work, do they pay you like every hour, like how much money you've earned? No, they send you a paycheck at the end of the month, or however your schedule is. So that's actually believing in karma. You actually believe that there's a result in your actions, or you wouldn't go to work if you weren't going to get paid. So people do believe in karma. They may not, but the thing is, Buddha says it's impossible to understand. He said it's like your head would explode if you tried to figure it out, all the consequences. I've also heard people saying that like groups don't have karma. So like the United States, even though the horrific things that we've done in world wars and stuff like that, that there isn't a karmic result from that. But I actually question that, because it's like, you know, if you're from a country that's done horrific things, if you travel, it's like, and people find out you're from that country, they do treat you in a particular way. So there are results from those actions. It's kind of controversial, but it does make me wonder, though. It's like, yeah, how did two people from Crawfordsville, Indiana, not knowing each other, end up in the same tradition? Crazy. I guess we don't need to know. We just can rejoice in the fact that it happened and that we know each other now.
Yeah, and it's like Long Porch Tomato says, like, it's a crazy world.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, thank you, Katie, for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Ajahn.
You're here for a retreat, so I hope that goes well.
Thank you. Yeah, this is lovely.
Okay, thanks.